short video to explain a dream that I had last night. So we're gonna focus in on the top painting. This is a Leyland Layler um, storytelling, a perspective. And so this is based on a dream that I had last night about how trans or queer people who blur gender lines tend to emerge. So, for those of you who don't understand the painting, this is, of course, an infinity symbol. The number eight is, um, for most or for people who are into numbers, it has to do with representing eternity or eternal. So the eight itself is purple, which represents when masculine and feminine energy come together. The reds and the pinks are symbolic of the feminine energy. The blue is symbolic of the masculine energy. Now, I'm sure if you're noticing the space for the feminine energy or the feminine consciousness is taking up more space than the space for the masculine consciousness. Now, the feminine consciousness tends to be the side of our brain that we don't use. And they say we only use 10% of our brain. So that would explain why the female part of our consciousness would take up more space. So imagine a current moving, and in this current, along this current, all of these dots, all of these splashes of color, all of these entities that are moving along this current represents aspects of consciousness, represents ancestors, represents energies. And in here, this is the chaos that creates on both sides of the mist. So there's chaotic energy, the deep that is capable of materializing what happens when these energies come together to create. Now, any beings that would rest here, rest in this area, that would be like resting in the seat of feminine energy because you're over closer to this way, you're far away from the masculine energy, so you're sitting over here in your dominance, although you still have access to the masculine energy because remember this entity is purple, and so it takes the mergence of these colors to create purple, so there is access. But because you're resting in the feminine consciousness, you are not accessing some are not accessing that. I want to be clear. And so the same would hold true over here. If you are staying in this back part back here, then you're going to be dominantly sitting in your masculine energy. Although you too have access to the feminine, you are not resting in it all the time because perhaps you're not aware. Maybe there's some mental blocks, there are some blocks in consciousness. You haven't fully awakened to your purpose, who you are. And so you are surrounded by masculine energy and often operating in that masculine energy. This does not apply to everyone, but this would explain those archetypes and those likenesses that we see that are consumed by the pursuit of performing masculinity at an ideal capacity. And the same would hold true over here to those who would sit deep off in their feminine expression or their feminine consciousness. But now this is what I saw in the dream. Now when we get in this area where the feminine and the masculine world or the feminine and the masculine consciousness sort of collide, there's an opportunity to say you um, sat in your masculine consciousness, like before you materialized on the physical plane. So you sat in your masculine consciousness, but you were right here. You were sitting right here. But when you materialized in the physical plane, you materialized with feminine genetics, with female anatomy, but you were still resting in the masculine consciousness, but you were pushed into the female energy upon the time of conception into the material. And so when you manifested with female or feminine genetics. And so this is proving that consciousness does not always have to align with anatomy. Consciousness won't always align with anatomy, and vice versa. So you could be sitting in your femininity right here, sitting right here in your femininity, and the current comes, and you kind of like, you know, boop. And when you manifest physically, you manifest with male anatomy or masculine parts. Yes. So this is really an interesting conversation that I think that is awesome to have, and I'm able to have it through the work. I'm able to have it through the art. All of the colors represent something. White is symbolic for protection. Black is symbolic for protection. Green is symbolic for prosperity, yellow creation, orange healing, blue peace and masculinity, red passion, love and femininity. Yeah, purple is knowingness, full consciousness. And so this is the full conscious being. But let's be clear, there's also a possibility to build dams, in certain aspects so that you never really like move through and just have this complete experience so that you're able to sit. And I'm not saying that some people aren't meant to sit, in a certain aspect of consciousness. But there are beings who are meant to be fluid. And it totally makes sense in this area because if you notice, there are beings that are kind of like sitting on the line right between the two worlds. And that would also explain why few beings at one time are actually seen as trans or queer, like why the dominant part resonates with genitalia, why the dominant part, because the anomalies are happening in this area, and so this is a smaller population. And this would also explain for those who are moving backwards and forwards, in between this being bumped backwards and forwards, and are not able to solidify themselves on one side or the other or find balance in between, why detransition happens. Yeah, so if for those of you who head this does not go over, please feel free to leave comments in the comment section. I would love to hear your thoughts about this topic because it was really interesting for me to share. I wanted to share it with you. Also, there's eyes everywhere. There's eyes all over because this is people who are conscious, entities who are conscious, but not everything is conscious. Not everything is having a conscious experience. Some of us are moving through this reality with our eyes closed. And so, yeah, I wanted to acknowledge the awareness and the consciousness that is happening in this infinite loop of masculine and feminine energy. Again, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you have to add to this dialogue. Have a great day. Blessings. Laylim Layler. Down but now that I say quickie spinning and turning in Gani Yanko Kalukalo, which means I'm a child of God Goddess. And if I am, you know you are.